Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Sports Today. After a one-day break, we are at last we're back with Asia Cup action. Remember, the first two matches happened. India-Pakistan was on Sunday, and there was also, of course, some days break on Monday. So this action resumes today. Of course, we know for a fact that India won't be playing until tomorrow when they take on Hong Kong. But there is another match that's taking place, and this match is going to be taking place at Sharjah, rather than, of course, the first two matches you'd remember took place at the Dubai International Cricket Stadium in Dubai. So this match, which is taking place in Sharjah, is between, of course, Bangladesh and Afghanistan. Now, the toss update on this match is that Bangladesh have actually, in fact, they've won the toss, and in a departure from convention that we normally see in T20I matches or even in franchise T20 leagues, Bangladesh have opted to bat first. Now, of course, you remember that in this particular match, both teams are actually on very different circumstances. Remember, Afghanistan, they played the first match of the Asia Cup and they beat Sri Lanka pretty convincingly. However, Bangladesh have yet to actually play a match, and this is in fact their opening game. So for Afghanistan, the equation is simple. If they get a win, then that is pretty much it seals their qualification into, of course, the Super Fours of the tournament. Bangladesh haven't played a game yet, but of course they would be hopeful of starting off with a victory. But to do so, they've actually chosen to bat first, which, as I said, a bit of a departure from convention. Normally, most teams that win the toss will always prefer to chase first. However, Bangladesh have chosen, in fact, to bat, and Bangladesh skipper Shakib Al Hassan has actually, in fact, explained his rationale that as to why they've chosen to bat first. He says that it'll be difficult for Afghanistan to actually chase normally, and I don't understand his point entirely, because normally Bangladesh, their strength lies in their bowling, and so if Afghanistan spinners can actually contain Bangladesh to a low total, then I don't think they would have too much of a problem chasing it down. In fact, that's exactly what happened against Sri Lanka as well. Anyway, the whole point is that they've chosen to bat first. And of course, as one of our commenters, Akash Bharadwaj, is pointing out, that spinners do come into they do come into play, and I do agree with you. Generally speaking, of course, Sharjah is a place where you will see it's a happier hunting ground for spinners, and in fact, the Dubai International Cricket Stadium in recent matches you saw that there was some assistance for seam bowlers. I don't think it's necessarily going to necessarily be the same in Sharjah. You will in fact see spinners come into play, so that's why it's not very surprising when you notice that Bangladesh themselves are going in with three spin options. So obviously there's three spin options and there's two seamers who are playing. So let's just quickly go over the playing 11. So for Bangladesh, their first playing 11 of the Asia Cup 2022 reads as follows. There's Mohammad Naeem and Anamul Haq who will be opening the batting. Shakib Al Hassan is surprisingly listed at number 3, although considering Bangladesh's middle order can be a bit patchy at times, it's not that much of a surprise. Shakib is an experienced campaigner. There's, of course, Afif Hussain at number 4. There's Mushfiqur Rahim, another experienced campaigner. At 5, Mossadegh Hussain and Mahmudullah complete the batting lineup. There's Mehdi Hassan thereafter. There's Mohammad Shaifuddin, Taskin Ahmed, and, of course, Mustafizur Rahman. So that's a pretty decent, playing 11 if you have to look at it. However, it is also worth noting that Bangladesh in recent times have been besought with issues when it comes to their recent form hasn't been the best. In fact, prior to the Asia Cup, they had lost both an ODI and T20I series to Zimbabwe. So obviously, as I said, they're not going through the best of times in that regard. It's not been a good time in Bangladesh cricket. Despite that, if you look at their playing 11, you realize that they do possess a few match winners in there, the likes of Mushfiqur Rahim, Shakib Al Hassan, who's been reinstated as captain. Remember, then people like Taskin Ahmed, Mustafiz, even Saifuddin, they're all decent operators at this level. So in that sense, definitely not. They're not going to be pushovers. But we had said the same thing about Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka too, actually, in recent times, have developed a fairly decent white ball team. But they got heavily undone against Afghanistan. As for Afghanistan, however, they haven't. It's no surprise that they've chosen to make literally no changes to the team that actually ended up winning by a massive margin in the first match. Now, you remember, so the playing 11 of Afghanistan is as follows. There's, of course, Hazratullah Zazai and Ramunullah Gurbaz. Atop the order, there's Ibrahim Zadran, Najibullah Zadran, there's Karim Jannat, there's Mohammad Nabi, the skipper, who comes in at number 6, there's Rashid Khan, there's Azmatullah Abdullah Ormarzai, there's Naveen ul Haq, Mujibur Rahman, and of course Fazal Haq Faruqi, who you'd remember was looking pretty dangerous in the initial stages of that last game. In fact, he was getting some very, very good swing in the early parts of the game. It'll be interesting to see if he can do that here, but of course, we know Sharjah conditions would be markedly different than what they would be or what they were in the Dubai International Cricket Stadium. So if you're actually looking at, if you look at the form book, then Afghanistan start this match as clear favorites. So because they've actually been in some decent form, they put up a very convincing thumping win against Sri Lanka, and Afghanistan have momentum on their side. They know for a fact they get any kind of win today, then that's it. They are through to the Super Fours. For Bangladesh, however, they haven't actually played a game. So assuming they do lose today, they can still make it to the Super Fours if they beat Sri Lanka in their final match. But of course, they're not wanted to be at that level. They want to be starting off with a win and ideally, of course, topping the pool. So in that sense, I think we're in for an interesting match. And if we have to go by the kind of reports or the reports that people are talking about in terms of the pitch, the talk is that the Sharjah deck is looking very, very good to bat on, and so that Bangladesh actually choosing to win the toss in that sense and choosing to bat, they might be choosing an interesting option because the deck looks very, very good to bat on. And of course, it is worth, of course, noting that there's not really been that much action on this particular ground for quite a while now. So in that sense, they're not coming up against a tired track. It's in fact a very, very fresh wicket that would have been taken good care of. So it is a good batting track. So in that sense, of course, it's imperative that Bangladesh actually, having chosen to bat first, put up a good total, because as we know, generally speaking, in the UAE, it does become much, much easier to bat under lights. So even so, if is in fact a very, very good track to bat on, then we could in fact actually be seeing this target being, any target, even a big target, being chased down. So I'm just going to take one comment. Prakash Jha says that spinners can play a vital role. You know what, Prakash, I absolutely agree with you. In fact, that was something that we expected to be the predominant theme when the Asia Cup was supposed to be happening in the UAE. It was expected that, of course, spinners would be playing a vital role. However, first two matches in, of course, the Dubai International Cricket Stadium hasn't, in fact, been that way. You would, in fact, if you watched India's game, you realize that not one single wicket against Pakistan was taken by a spinner. All of the wickets fell to pacers. So, but of course, again, Sharjah, generally speaking, does offer something for spin. So, in that sense, Prakash, I have actually already mentioned this, but I'm going to go over it once more. Is that it is pretty interesting that both teams are going with three spinners. But of course, historically speaking, that's not much of a surprise because, of course, Sharjah, as I said, it does tend to have something for the spinners. UAE tracks generally tend to be a little slower, although we haven't seen that in Dubai till this point. But again, Sharjah would be a different prospect altogether. Although I'm very interested to see how this pitch plays, because again, spinners might actually get some purchase, but reportedly it looks like a very, very good deck to bat on. So in that sense, going in with three spinners, would it be a wise choice? Not, we're not really sure about that. And as for thoughts on the Bangladesh spin attack, I actually think their spin attack doesn't look too bad. Although again, Afghanistan spin attack, I would say the same thing. Afghanistan though have always had some very good spinners, and they have a lot of young talent who come through their ranks in that regard. But right now, that spin attack is looking very solid. Bangladesh, I think the spin attack would hold the key, but I think also someone like Mustafiz would in fact, be an important part as well, because again, he's someone who's a proven operator in the T20I, format. He's someone who does very, very well. His Yorkers, of course, we know for a fact that lethal. His cutters, definitely something that a lot of batsmen find hard to navigate. So I don't think it's just going to be the spinners. I think for Bangladesh, if they have to emerge victorious today, their entire bowling lineup will need to do well. But not just the bowlers, in fact. I would argue that, in fact, their batsmen also, first off, would actually need to give them a decent target to bowl at, because this track does, reportedly look like a good deck to bat on. So in that sense, I don't think it'll be, we might just be in for a high-scoring match for a change. The first two games didn't really provide that, but although India versus Pakistan, we know for a fact, wasn't short of that much drama. But again, neither of the matches were high-scoring games. Sri Lanka versus Afghanistan, remember, Sri Lanka really absolutely were throwing away wickets at one point. They had 2 run-outs. But today, I think we could be in for an interesting, big-scoring match, especially if the Bangladesh batsmen get going early. I think we're in for an interesting match in front of, I think we'd be very, very interested to see the batting especially, I think, will be play a key part, let's say, towards who ends up getting the win. I think we could be in for a high scoring encounter, but of course we'll only know how that match plays out. It's going to be starting very, very soon, by the way, and I'm going to take your leave. I just thought I'd join you guys for this breaking news, for the breaking toss update, and of course we discuss the playing 11. I think both sides look pretty balanced. Not much of a surprise that both of them are spin heavy, but let's see how exactly the pitch plays out, because again, we were expecting generally spin to have we were expecting spin to be a dominant factor in, of course, the Asia Cup, because it's happening in UAE, but so far at least that hasn't been the case. Can that change in Sharjah? We'll see. Don't forget to join us in the middle of the innings and of course after the match as well, because we'll be discussing this as we normally do. So thank you all so much for joining us, and of course don't forget to like, share, subscribe, leave us a comment. Are you excited to watch this match? Who do you think will be the players to watch out for? Let us know, and of course tap the bell icon so that you know when exactly we're going live or uploading a new video for you guys. Last but not least, don't forget to follow us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter as well, and of course download the AajTak app for more such breaking news updates. Thanks so much for joining us, and bye bye for now.